as the title just said. Get out of the food, get out of the food, get out of the food, get out of the cat food. Y'all have been fed today, behave. If I start hearing the bag get chewed on again, I'm gonna have to come this way again. Behave. Acting like y'all ain't been fed this morning. Sorry about that, y'all. Just as the stream went live, I started hearing them chewing through that cat food bag. Again, sorry, y'all. My body disgusts me too a lot of the time. Let's see. What was I in the middle of before the cat so rudely interrupted? Let's see. Let's go this way. Clear it out real good. Sorry for that loud wind-up, y'all. I try to take into account all of my viewers' sensibilities. It was not my intention to yell into anyone's ear. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here at the moment other than just opening up this entryway area. That way we'll have a better area for gardening and we'll have a better area for, like, traffic, so to speak. That way if people... Give me just a moment. Gotta get down to them again. Why do y'all wish to upset me and dig into things you ought not to? You have been fed. I'm not leaving bowls of food just sitting out for y'all to knock over for the dogs. Behave. Again, y'all, sorry for my animals' misbehavior. You'd have thought I'd have taught them better. But that's why I keep stopping to make sure they don't tear into this bag of food. Normally it would have been opened already, but I did not end up having to open it because I had already finished off. Basically, for the first time in a long time, the bags of food worked out to where one emptied and was done, just as the new one came in. So it'll be open tonight or tomorrow when they get fed, and they just don't like that because they can't sneak any food out of it. That's it. I love my animals, but anyone that tells you animals are always easy is lying to you. A lot of the times they will frustrate you to no end. But you love them and they do care. I have no idea what Candace Owens is on about. Oh, I did have torches already. I really want to basically set up signs up top that are basically, hey, welcome to my world, have fun on the surface world, leave the underside of the village alone, welcome, welcome. Because again, y'all, I want people to feel free to jump on and play. I like building my stuff and I want to be isolated in my little build area. Hello, Martina missus. Do you want my attention again, sweetheart? I ain't mad at y'all, I just wish y'all would quit tearing things up. The only time I get mad is when y'all do something that's dangerous for all of you. she's attacking the strings in my jacket. Also, y'all, I really gotta catch up on Naruto, I guess. I got this jacket at the thrift store, and my original plan was to make it my own with the paint markers and whatnot. But is there like a hidden thing behind the village hidden in the clouds, the red whatever? Because they got a lot of marketing for the villains if they were just supposed to be, you know, villains. And I know anime has real deep storylines sometimes. Why are you trying to undo my jacket? Leave my zipper alone. Play with the strings. They're stupidly long. I almost want to put bells on them. Or honestly, I kind of want to cut the hood a little bit, make it... Hey, not the cord. The cord will shock you, dear. Go play. Go play with things that you should be playing with. And every time, y'all, I'm brain broke from the 90s. Every time I hear More Than Meets the Eye, it's like whenever I hear, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! More Than Meets the Eye? Transformers? I'm broken. I'm too old for my brain to do these tangents, and not old enough. Well, I think I'm gonna do something else with this one. Let's find a good wall to stare at, or go throw some of this copper in the kiln. And I think we're going to do some Crash Course. Just about anything Crash Course, because like I said, just in case, I know the boys shouldn't be watching this stream, because it's school time, I think. Eyebrow raised questioning, because I haven't been in school long enough now that I genuinely don't know anymore. Used to, y'all, I was keeping up with that crap out of, like, muscle memory. It was, okay, I used to go to school, this would be the day, this was... Nowadays, I ain't got kids in school. I genuinely... let's go to my subscriptions. We should be safe from any monsters. There it is. Crash Course is climbing up my list. Alright. Magical realism and the Latin American boom. Crash Course Latin American history. And while that goes, and we'll find a playlist. Also, in sad news, the last of the Native American code talkers has officially passed away today at the age of 87. A big rest in peace to him. I wish I could remember his name. I'm not gonna lie to you and try to make up a name for him. I'm looking for the link to get to their actual page. There it is. Why does YouTube make everything difficult nowadays? Used to, when you clicked on them in the subscription page, it just went to their channel, not this little weird drop down. Here's all the most popular. Take me to the channel. Alice, be good and be quiet. Alright. Let's go with... Crank this up a bit, and we'll go to Native American history. We left off on tribal sovereignty. And I hate cues right now. This should be on their playlist. Using nets called sieves to rein in salmon that they would often use for trade. Alright, we'll click on the next one. Alright. And ate the fish before returning the bones to the Columbia River in what's now Oregon and Washington state. In fact, the Chinooks still practice first salmon ceremony. Their culture is alive and well. But to the U.S. federal government, there is no Chug Indian Nation. Hi, I'm Shay Jim, and welcome to Crash Course Native American History. Iconic opening. 574. That's how many federally recognized Native Americans exist today in what is now known as the United States. And knowing that can feel a bit
disorienting. I mean, that's more than 10 times the number of U.S. states. Wouldn't it make more sense to call them tribes instead of nations? It's not wrong to say tribe, and many Native folks use the two words interchangeably. But there's a good reason to use nation in this episode. We say nations when talking about the relationship between tribal governments and the United States because of what they have in common, and that's sovereignty. An inherent pre-existing right to govern themselves and their territory, meaning essentially to make and enforce their own laws. Sovereignty is the basis of a government-to-government relationship, like the one between the U.S. and Mexico. It's how treaties get interpreted, Supreme Court cases get decided, laws get legislated, and policies get... Policies? And you really can't understand Native history, or the present for that matter, without first understanding what sovereignty means in action. Native nations like the Chinook were running themselves long before the United States existed. In fact, the Chinook fed and sheltered Lewis and Clark to became a surveying the land that was not theirs. So sovereignty isn't something the U.S. ever gave these nations. The U.S. recognizes tribal sovereignty, which didn't just end with colonization. It's right there in the Constitution, in a totally chill bit called the Indian Commerce Clause. The Congress shall have power to regulate commerce with the foreign nations and among the states and with the Indian tribes. Catch it? It's subtle. But by saying Congress can regulate trade with other sovereign governments, it's acknowledging that Native nations are among those governments, and they'll be treated that way, not as special interest groups, not as random individuals, but as equally sovereign nations. And if that wasn't enough, spoiler, it definitely wasn't enough. The government formally recognized Native sovereignty again in the early 1800s with the Marshall Trilogy, which sounds like a sci-fi franchise, but it's actually a series of Supreme Court cases that say the federal government, not the states, make the policies about Native nations. Looking at you, Georgia. Don't even come down there. The grand finale of the Marshall Trilogy, Worcester versus Georgia in 1832, brought us this classic. Tribes are distinct, independent, political communities retaining their original natural rights as the undisputed possessors of the soil from time immemorial. Got a real ring to it. But the same case that recognized Native sovereignty also reined it in by classifying tribes as domestic independent nations. Domestic, meaning that they're within the borders of the U.S.
I believe Ginger might be down the hall on the shelf.
And power over them.
That's the last place I saw him.
Because that inherent right to govern themselves.
Oh no, most of them are avoiding the kitchen at the moment other than Ronan.
Wow, that sounds like
It is mighty cold in there. I patched a lot of the holes where the wind was getting through, but it's still pretty chill.
It is. The whole domestic dependent nations thing made Native sovereignty look more like quasi-sovereignty. Congress now has plenary power over Native nations, or the broad ability to limit or enhance tribal authority. They can basically decide if the U.S. government will treat Native tribes as nations or not, on a case-by-case basis. And that has big consequences for the Chinook, who I mentioned earlier, along with many other tribes.
I'm glad you didn't try to walk
Tribal
to
sovereignty is
today.
an inherent right.
Oh.
So the Chinook were never
It's
not
supposed to line
sovereign.
up tomorrow.
They needed federal
Oh good, in that case, excellent timing. I'll do all that tomorrow.
But one thing that can help the tribes case for federal recognition is if they entered into a treaty with the U.S., which several
One
Chinook
second.
tribes
Y'all,
did
I'm gonna go
in
off the mic.
1831.
holidays planned for the moment. I never make hard plans.
Which happened, when they were listed as one of the premier federal tribes in the Western Oregon Indian Termination Act, which took effect in 1956. We'll talk much more about terminations later on in the series. As processes for federal recognition changed over the decades,
Play nice, you two.
Between 2001 and 2002, they were even successful on the basis that one of the treaties had been ratified. The George W. Bush administration reversed that decision just after 18 months. It was a huge loss for the tribe, but not the end of their fight for recognition. So why is tribal sovereignty such a big deal? Well, in the United States today, Native nations, the federal government, and the states are the only three political entities that have sovereignty. Being recognized by the federal government means Native nations can make their own laws and govern their own citizens, and they can set their own rules for who's considered. Recognized sovereignty also means Native nations can enforce their own laws.
Do I have great? Okay, I did make great.
They can place their own borders and regulate trade within
New
them,
plan.
which can create jobs and drive economic growth. Native nations can also provide services geared towards the welfare of their citizens, like healthcare and first
Crap.
responders. Like the federal government funds the Indian Health Service, which provided vaccines during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. But members of non-federally recognized nations like
I might have to cut soon because Martina has now set her sights back on the console.
Some tribal members had to travel hours to get vaccinated. And importantly,
Alright,
federally recognized
let's
nations
see
have
what we
authority
can do
over
about
how
this
they'll
roof.
A lot of tribal lands are owned by the federal government and held in trust for the tribe, but tribes themselves have the final word on much of what happens on those lands. And states can't meddle. And this includes things like hunting, fishing, and gathering rights. Without federal recognition, the Chinook don't have clear fishing rights to the salmon that are such a big part of their culture and history. That means they have to pay for fishing licenses, just like everyone else, even though they have an ancestral connection to the fish. Recognized sovereignty also means being able to collect taxes from tribal citizens and non-citizens conducting business on tribal lands. States can't tax Native nations or tribal members, but in a strange loophole, if a non-Indian buys a coffee at a tribal
Okay.
the state can collect sales taxes off that purchase.
Off of there.
This is a legal system.
Stay off of there. Quit trying to chew on electronics.
Native nations can handle their own business without interference from the states. But Native nations and states sometimes enter into agreements.
Go play on your play area, please.
Like if a nation
Hello, Spider XD.
they have to enter into a compact with the
Sorry about the delay. My cats are choosing today to pick violence against everything. Okay, everybody good now? You two, play nice. You quit attacking the console. Okay, what the heck did I do when I lost the screen? Well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Thought I'd punched a giant hole in the roof. Nope. You stay right here with me or go play on your play area. You're not getting near the electronics again. I have cats. Usually they're well behaved. Today is an exception day. I used up all my grapes, didn't I? Okay. That's cool too. Nope. I'm trying to see where she's going. Have you ever heard the phrase wrangle cats? Yeah, there's a reason behind that phrase. Go that way. Nope, go into the kitchen. Go play in the kitchen. There you go. It'll be a nightmare to someone else for a bit. I love them, but when they're little, they have two speeds, fast and faster. And none of it has any they don't consider their own health, your health, items. I am old. I am 37. I vaguely remember you, Spider. Are you one of the people that came in and hung out for a while when I was playing the Spider-Man game? As we'll see throughout this series, that lack of respect for tribal sovereignty I did a little bit of charity work, but that's been about it of late, right now.
The Chinook Indian Nation is still pursuing every pathway it can to regain their recognition. Regardless of recognition, the right of Native
And the previous stream you were probably watching, if it was one of these streams, kind of got nuked when someone came on the server, visited, and left the door open.
an inherent right
Y'all have a good day now.
when their lands were colonized. And today, Native sovereignty is the basis of a government-to-government relationship. A nation within a nation.
All comments help, folks. All comments help.
Complicated. We'll keep exploring a whole lot more throughout this series.
You can get on if you like. Though I'd prefer everyone that isn't my nephews or my sisters stay above ground or mine elsewhere. The dead village is kind of mine. So if you want to come down here and mess around, I'm more than welcome. Every time I let people on this game, they leave doors open or they lure critters in or I otherwise die shortly after they play. And I kind of like this world. It's new. Still got that new server smell. Why doesn't this thing pick... I clicked on a playlist and yet it constantly flops to a different playlist. Okay. Oh, David ended up, the car wasn't being sold, so we just haven't gotten one yet. He's on the hunt, and I'm still using the bicycle. Just today we've had a frosting over, so I'm kind of chilling at the house.
Hi, I'm JJ, and welcome to Crash Course Native American History.
Trying to go in this direction.
This is how Native Americans were commonly represented. If they weren't out hunting buffalo, they were gathered around a table with some pilgrims eating turkey, mashed potatoes, and cranberry sauce.
Alright, no worries. Have a good one. We stream a bunch of different games through the days when I'm hanging out here.
And it comes from a variety of myths and misconceptions that have spread like wildfire from the colonial era to the modern day.
For anyone else who's interested, I'm also now back on the wasteland that is Facebook. I'm still not going to get on Twitter. I missed that trend and I intend to stay missed on it. And I'm on YouTube. Those be the socials.
Like the first Thanksgiving are so widespread, finding them takes serious work. And that can take lots of different forms, including my personal favorite, myth-blasting baseball.
Okay, for anyone who wants to see this video in its integrity, which you really should, it's a good video. The man's going through Native American myths, putting them in little vials, putting them on a rock, and then hitting them with a bat. It's rather entertaining.
This place wasn't unchanged at all. It already had a name, the Tuxedo, which was also the name of the band of the Wampanoag Confederation, who had been farming and living there for generations. But it was a terrible time for the Wampanoag. An epidemic from a disease brought over by other Europeans had wiped out
We'll go
90%
down
of the population,
into the
leaving
depths.
them weak and vulnerable. Meanwhile,
Also, let's go get some stairs.
God's will, and a great time to take some land. When the pilgrims arrived in winter, they robbed the homes and graves of Wampanoag who died, promising
Not
to
my
repay what they'd
intention.
taken. They didn't. All the while, the Wampanoag leader, Usaliquin, was weighing out his options, and tensions with other tribes would boom. He strategically decided to
That's frustrating. Let's do something else with this.
The Wampanoags heard guns going off and sent 90 men over to help. Only then were the pilgrims like, oh, you want some food? And there wasn't enough to eat. So the Wampanoags went out to hunt some deer. And if there was friendship that day, it didn't last. Within a generation, the tension between Native Americans and English settlers erupted into King Philip's War, one of the deadliest conflicts in U.S. history. So while the Thanksgiving myth might seem like no big deal, it hides a grim reality that this strategic, temporary alliance kicked off a centuries-long disaster for the Wampanoags, who, by the way, are still here, living in New England. So where did this
Okay, they're getting into the trash. Give me a second. Get out of the trash can. And now what are you eating? Okay, if all you're gonna do is play in the empty boxes, have at it. I use those as materials, but I don't care right now. Go play. As long as they're not getting into the trash.
And the Reconstruction period when whites tried to distance the nation's history from enslavement. Essentially, the story was passed on for political reasons, not historically accurate ones. According to historian David Silverman, the false narrative of Thanksgiving creates an emotional burden for Native Americans and promotes a lighthearted view of historical trauma. It contributes to the spread of false ideas like natives and colonizers got along and Native Americans are a part of the past.
They aren't. They're still here.
The myth that Native Americans no longer exist, often called the myth of the vanishing Indian, couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I'm here, aren't I? In fact, I'm one of about 6 million natives living in the U.S. today. Part of the reason why we seem invisible is because the media has done a pretty poor job of showing who we really are. For instance,
Representation matters.
I feel like there was just no room for people like me in movies. Many of the most popular films were Western, which for a long time were the only ways Native Americans were represented to the wider world. These movies made natives seem synonymous with the Wild West, not the here and now, something we also covered in Crash Course Art History. Initial mention of native people from the present can have serious consequences. One survey of more than 6,000 native folks found that 87% of those surveyed believed the average American native.
No, I was just remembering when I was younger and a very cringe song that I and a neighbor boy wrote, and we were trying to get a little garage band together, and I'm just glad that social media didn't exist. I'll leave it at that.
Halloween costumes and sports. Like, have you ever seen the Kansas City Chiefs or the Atlanta Braves fans doing this? Yeah, that's called the tomahawk chop. And it's meant to remind us of the savage Indian warriors wielding their tomahawks at cowboys, just like in those Western films. The tomahawk chop is part of this culture we have in the U.S. of using native people as mascots for sports teams. The myth goes like this. Using a Native American as a mascot honors them and the nation's history and traditions. But, just like the Thanksgiving myth, that's far from the truth.
Like I said, I highly advise you check out the video. It's very fun and cathartic to watch. Because these are myths that I heard all my life too and had to argue against.
But mascots like these make us in fact, names that honor Native Americans came about during a time when the U.S. government was trying to assimilate natives out of existence. Through forcing them onto reservations and into boarding schools, white America was like, boom, colonization done. Here's a mascot to remember the good times. Native mascots don't bring the average non-native person any closer to actually understanding native people.
I mean, also mascots, much like statues, don't really teach anything.
Exposure to native stereotypes decreases young native people's sense of their own worth and the worth of their communities, and can increase depression. And sometimes, sports teams use really offensive language that further harms native people, like the Washington football team's old name. Native leaders protested the name for decades, but
The Washington slur.
capita payments to tribal members. And the vast majority of the whole rich casino Indian thing is a stereotype that grew out of 90s TV and popular shows like South Park and The Sopranos, and a growing fear of natives becoming an economic threat.
Yeah, that's one of my least favorite myths.
Natives have the highest poverty rate of any racial group in the U.S. But media critic Celeste LaCroix has pointed out that the casino Indian myth in particular possesses and undeserving of power and wealth. If people think that you're part of a get-rich-quick scheme, they're not very likely to help you. So let's rapid-fire myth bust real quick. Checks from the government? Some natives do get them, but it's a payment that they're owed for the use of natural resources on their land. Tribes don't pay federal taxes because the U.S. Constitution recognizes them as sovereign nations, but virtually all individual natives pay federal income taxes. College tuition? Most native students pay for college student loans, needs-based grants, and merit-based scholarships, same as everybody else. Only sometimes they can get access to native-specific scholarships and state-based tuition waivers if they meet certain criteria. And those tuition waivers are slowly increasing the number of Native Americans who go to college and graduate. Besides Indian Health Services, or IHS, a federal agency that delivers health care to nearly 2.6 million American Indians, if a Native is receiving government assistance, it's not because they're Native. It's because they qualify for the same support over the U.S.
Let's also look at how so many Native Americans serve in the U.S. military. Also, just in case the mic wasn't active earlier when I said it, rest in peace to the last Native American code talker from back in the day. Because, sorry, Stephen, let me interrupt you for just a minute. Because, you know how we beat the Nazis, y'all? How we beat their codes? We had one gay man break their ciphers, and we had native people who they wouldn't have seen as people speak their own language, which we had outlawed years before. How'd we beat the fucking fascists? Sorry for the F-word, kids. How'd we do it? By community. By not being them. Y'all, I love y'all. Never be a fascist. They're garbage people. They're terrible people. And they will always, always be beaten back in the annals of history. Because they have no leg to stand on. Self-eating disease they are. But be safe, y'all. That's all I'm saying. It's a dangerous time to be out in the world. And being a fascist is always a choice. Choose not to be. Again, sorry for the F word. No excuse for it, kids. I try not to use it on this server because I know how many kids be on this server. But I am very passionate about that. I won't apologize for my hatred of fascists and Nazis. I will apologize for my language around you kids.
During the racial reckonings of 2020, the threat of major sponsors and the team was renamed Washington Commanders in 2022.
Heck yeah! Washington Commanders even sounds better. Why name your team after a slur? Go get 'em, Commanders. Like I said, y'all, this is why history's important. Not bullcrap that makes us feel good. History.
We'll learn about Native American identity and just how complicated it can be. I will see you then.
And here's a hot tip, y'all. If the history makes you uncomfortable, good, don't repeat it. Sorry, that came off as harsh. If there's any kids on this stream, that wasn't at y'all kids. It ain't on y'all. I mean, I really want y'all to learn how to read because the enemy wants you to be ignorant. Because ignorance breeds stupidity, and stupidity breeds incompetence, and incompetence means that you'll never, never succeed at usurping the government's power over you. So, don't breed hatred, don't breed incompetence. Don't trust the system, y'all. But we gotta work within it.
traditional clothing and be actively riding a horse.
Huh.
But Native Americans
Ruh-roh.
we wear suits and jingle dresses, write code and traditional language, rock buzz cuts and braids. We could have an Ojibwe mom and a British dad who pass on his blonde hair, pale skin, or love of beans on toast. Basically, you can't tell if someone's native.
Also, it's practical. Sorry, interrupting CGM one more time. But it's also hard to point this out, but one of the, since it's a little past Halloween, Mini Minute Man did an entire episode on the Croatoans and the Lost Colony. But y'all, more than likely what the Lost Colony was some people moved in with the local native tribes because their British colonizers basically abandoned them to die on a swamp island. So they went and moved in with the natives because the natives weren't cruel and stupid and leaving their citizens to die. I mean, like I said, go check out Mini Minute Man. He does a full breakdown and actually goes into the real history of it. Because, y'all, you got to remember, I'm a big proponent of teaching it as well. The people in the past weren't mythical figures that were magical and had superior knowledge to us and farted rainbows full of magical sparkle, dust, and fairies. No, they were people. Like you and me. Like your parents. Like your friends. They were people. And so don't make them mystical, don't make them legends, but at the same time, they weren't monsters either. They were people. Complicated, difficult to understand people. And the reason that I'm so big on people like y'all learning how to read and write and keep track of each other and all that is because if we don't do that, if we don't know how to communicate, then what's to keep your controllers, whoever your government is, from just cutting off the internet? I mean, there are a good number of people, I know myself included, that without spell check, we would be writing our own language to each other. And at the same time, I understand the will of wanting to have fun with things, but it's like the number of people that have said, hey, you should take this language with me, and I want to learn Orcish and Elfish, and I'm like, y'all, don't get me wrong, I love the fantasy, and I like Klingon and stuff too myself, but it's like, there are actual Native American real languages, people that existed, that did things in the real world that matter, and their language is vanishing. Because people aren't learning their language. They're learning gibberish and nonsense and Ghoulie and Goopadik and all this other stuff. I hope Ghoulie wasn't an actual language. My brain pinged and went, wait, that one might be real. But either way, we're learning fantasy languages rather than learning real ones. And y'all, you want to really screw up a police investigation, start blathering with each other in Blackfoot. See how quickly the police go, what? Because unless they get a native translator, how are they going to understand what you're saying to each other? They can understand Spanish, they can understand Chinese, they can understand Japanese and all the varieties of Spanish. They can't understand Blackfoot, they can't understand Swanee, they can't understand Cherokee, unless they get someone that speaks it. Like I said, y'all, I'm just saying, the real rebel thing here is learn the things that the fascists are scared of. Work together and leave no one behind. That includes our ancients. That includes our ancestors and the people that are still here. Because like C-Jim just said, and I recommend highly go checking out his channel, because he doesn't just do the fun, like, educational stuff. He also does comedy, music. He's a person. That's it, y'all. I know a lot of my viewers are from other countries, probably because of the immense amount of hatred I have for the Republican Party and the fact that most of the video gaming community is a right-wing hug box, and I'm not, and I refuse to be. But, you know, just in case anyone's out there listening and wondering. Oh, now back to the lessons, because Crash Course is actually educational, unlike the PragerU bullcrap they're trying to shove down kids' throats in school right now. Go check out Crash Course.
Hi, I'm JJM and welcome to
Where did I put that other fence post just now?
So, for
God, I hate that guy.
Plus, the Vikings made it here way before that dweeb anyway. Yes, to make an extremely long story short, European settlers colonized North America, interrupting native life. Something we'll talk more about in episode 10. And like we'll see over and over throughout this series, native people are still dealing with the consequences of colonization, including when it comes to identity. Take spirituality. Before colonization, the hundreds of tribes scattered throughout what is
Oh, fun fact, Columbus was also arrested and died in prison back in Italy once he finally returned from his slaughter, and gonna bleep it out because kids watch this stream. Columbus was a terrible person, kids. Just terrible person. You think Hitler was bad? Check out Columbus. Just saying. Terrible, terrible, terrible person.
And those beautiful cats in North America, they tended to see Native Americans as souls in need of saving. Spiritual practices that had stretched back for generations were suddenly disrupted. For instance, the Puritan John Eliot of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, nice Ascot, tried to convert American Indians to Christianity. He even learned the Algonquin language to do so, and it worked. 1/4 of Native people in New England converted to Christianity. Eliot isolated those who converted into praying towns, forcing them to cut their hair, dress like Puritans, and give up their families and cultural practices. This created tribal and cultural tensions between those who converted and those who didn't, even within families. When your community faces a crisis of faith, what does that do to your cultural identity? Fast forward to the 21st century, and 2/3 of Native Americans today identify as Christian. But plenty of Native people still follow their traditional beliefs, and some mix the two. My own grandma wore her traditional dress every day. She spoke to a nominal and with the Catholic Mass every week. Or like at Minnesota's All Saints Episcopal Indian Mission, where the pastor burns sweetgrass instead of incense.
I really would like to learn more about, like, Native American religious traditions.
And when it comes to cultural identity,
Because my great-grandmother abandoned her traditions for Christianity, but I don't blame her. She was ripped away from her family. It's really the reason why I hate the stereotype of any minority group being drunk, or drunkards, because y'all, as someone who looks like I do, or who might be pale if you're pale, you can't comprehend what they went through. No matter how bad it was, you can't comprehend it. Just saying, it's the things my country has done is legendarily evil.
In the 1990s, Jesse Littlejoe Bayer, a member of the Mashpee tribe of the Wampanoag Nation, started having dreams. In them, familiar-looking people spoke to her in a language that she didn't understand. Then one day, when driving in Massachusetts, she noticed similarities in the street signs that she was passing, and it hit her. The people in her dream were speaking Wampanoag.
Hey, Endgamer, if you want to, go ahead if you're on my friends list. I just tend to not let people on very frequently because they break things. Just bad luck. Oh good, that one's peaceful. Not peaceful.
She worked with the Mashpee and the Plymouth tribes to launch a language reclamation project, and while getting her master's in linguistics from MIT, she was advised by an expert in indigenous languages who just so happened to be a direct descendant of the white founder of Rhode Island, much like the prophecy foretold. To bring the language back to life, she cross-referenced a Bible that John Eliot, Ascot guy, had translated into a language
still got wood.
Plus dozens of other archival documents from languages in the same family. From those scraps, Bayer constructed a 10,000-word Wampanoag dictionary, began teaching Wampanoag classes, and even raised her daughter to speak the language, making her the first native speaker in 7 generations. And that is the story of Jesse.
Welcome, welcome.
As diverse as native identity,
Not joining any parties. Not a party person.
What's shared is a common experience of splintered connections to places, practices, languages, and more. In fact, colonization changed how lots of Native people determine what's known as tribal membership. Like, I'm an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation. But not all Native Americans are enrolled tribal members. Before colonization, tribes often used descent to figure out membership. For
I just
instance,
need to go far enough
Cherokee
out
are
and
something
then
called
build back up.
lists prepared by the U.S. government in the late 19th and early 20th centuries to document who was a member of 5 specific tribes, including the Cherokee. But they weren't perfect. Many people from those tribes didn't sign up out of fear of persecution. Also, the Dawes rules limited enrollment to one tribe, even though many Native people claimed multiple tribal identities. Regardless, today, the only way to become an enrolled member of the Cherokee Nation is
Go
if
for
at
it, though.
least one of your direct ancestors signed up for that list. Elsewhere, the most widely used way to figure out enrollment eligibility is to require a particular blood quantum, or fraction of tribal blood. Quantum blood fractions? Man, this sounds like a sci-fi thriller.
I put so much work into avoiding people.
For example,
Oh
someone
well.
looking to enroll in the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa only needs 1/4 Indian blood, regardless of tribe. But a person seeking to enroll in the Navajo Nation needs to have at least 1/4 Navajo blood to be accepted. Thanks, Dad. About 70%
Whole bunch of people
federally recognized tribes today require a
having
blood
us a
quantum.
picnic here.
But it's a controversial way of determining tribal enrollment. It's a practice born of those early Dawes rules days. Back when the U.S.
I don't mean
government
to be
also
mean.
sorted
I really
Native
realize how much I come off as a stogie old man. I
Americans, those
just...
with European ancestry and those without. The whole
I'm hoping
metric
this doesn't end up
is
getting me
that
killed.
eventually, after generations of intermarriage, there wouldn't be many people who qualified as Native anymore, and the U.S. would not be held to the treaties that they signed. That's one messed up loop.
I'm assuming that's them over there.
Natives today argue that tribes should leave blood quantum in the past, reasoning that it's a colonial invention that treats Native identity like a math problem.
Maybe this won't be so bad.
Not Native
Maybe I'm
If
just
a child of
being
two
old and
enrolled parents
annoying.
doesn't leave blood quantum, they miss out on the benefits of tribal citizenship, like access to scholarship, religious protections, and healthcare. Not to mention a sense of belonging and a cool ID card. And as fewer people qualify as members, what will that mean for the tribe's continued existence? But on the other side, some Native people think blood quantum requirements are their best shot at proving a lineage and preserving already close-knit communities. So it's up to each
I'm
tribe.
curious if those are supposed to be petrified leaves or what.
And some tribes are taking action, returning to enrollment based on descendants. In other words, if your parent is in the tribe, you can be in it too. Like the St. Croix Chippewa tribe, which exploded in 2023
I really gotta make a pair of
to
clippers.
eliminate blood quantum requirements. And in case you were wondering, can a DNA test prove tribal membership? No. At most, a DNA test might show someone's related to a tribal member, but there's no tribe-specific genetic marker that says, congratulations, you're Navajo. And although there are some DNA
Oh, I
markers
must
more
hit
likely to
the
be found in
tradesman.
people with Native ancestry, not all Native Americans have them. So next time your white neighbor tells you they're Mohawk because 23andMe said so, kindly direct them to this video. So Native American identity can involve being an enrolled tribal member, but not always. Also, to make things even more nuanced, not all tribes are federally recognized. The U.S. government chooses which tribes get federal benefits. Currently, 574 of them, though there are some occasional updates. Most benefits and many laws relating to American Indian identity only apply to members of those federally recognized tribes. Additionally, the government issues certificates of degree of Indian or Alaskan Native American blood, or CDIB cards. So many cards, which entitle holders to those benefits like access to Indian health services. All of this has a huge impact on the cultural identity of a tribe and its people. If a tribe is federally recognized, some people don't see it as legitimate, even if that tribe has been around since time immemorial. And without recognition, tribes like the Winnemem-Wintu face an even steeper climb in preserving their cultural traditions because they lack legal protections for their religious practices or the clout to stop development on their sacred sites. As for how the federal government decides who gets recognition, that's complicated, and we'll get there in a later episode. When it comes to culture, Native identity might involve speaking traditional languages and dressing in traditional clothing, or it might not. When it comes to legal status,
I'll do for now till I find more coal.
a federally recognized tribe or an unrecognized one.
No, I got 3 seeds at all that work.
One-size-fits-all kind of deal.
That's fine.
But if there's one word I can use to describe Native identity, it's this: perseverance. Ever since the first colonizers set foot on the shores of
Gotta
North
let
America,
people in.
they've worked to dilute, restrain, and destroy Native culture. From creating categories to define us, to separating us from our beliefs, lands, and languages. But through it all, natives have persevered. And in that perseverance, we've begun to reclaim what's been taken from us. In our next episode, we'll look at some of the many ways Native Americans are connected to the land and to each other. And I will see you then. Thanks for watching this episode of Crash Course in Native American History, which was filmed at our studio in Indianapolis. Think of a place that's important to you. Maybe it's a lake where you played as a kid.
Getting slightly better at catching these before they end.
Or a neighborhood where you know every street by heart. Now, imagine that connection you feel goes even deeper. Imagine it's embedded in your language, your relative stories, your traditions. And it's a connection stretching back generations, longer than anyone can remember. That's just a taste of what it means when Native Americans talk about being connected to a place. Hi, I'm Shay Jim, and this is Crash Course in Native American History. When Native Americans talk about a connection to a place, it usually goes a lot deeper than I'm from LA or I'm from Chicago. Many Native nations, like the Yuki of what's now California, have continuously lived in the same place for thousands of years. Others, like the Cherokee, still feel connected to their homeland even though they no longer live there. The Cherokee lived for generations in what's now the southeastern United States until the 19th century when the federal government violently removed them from the
Yeah, I got my pole.
to present-day Oklahoma. But this connection is about more than just the physical land. Like, yeah, it's made of trees and rocks, but also water, sky, other plants and animals, forces like thunder and wind, seasons and stars. Natives view all these elements as part of a living, breathing whole that humans aren't separate from. And this worldview stretches across different Native nations and cultures. The Potawatomi,
I appreciate that worldview too.
often describe the land as Ningoyak, which means that which has been given to us. It's a phrase that invokes every life-sustaining thing the land holds that's offered up for free. Sunlight, water, food, shelter, and medicine. The idea that the land takes care of you, and in return, you take care of it. I think Robin Wall Kimmerer, a Potawatomi botanist, said it best. Land is everything. Identity, the connection to our ancestors, the home of our non-human kinfolk, our pharmacy, our library, the source of all that sustained us. It belonged to itself. It was a gift, not a commodity, so it could never be bought or sold. She's got bars. And we see this perspective in many Native traditions, like every June on the coast of what's now Washington, salmon emerge from the ocean and swim into the freshwater rivers. The Coast Salish people describe this as part of a sacred agreement. Salmon come into the rivers, offering themselves as food for people, but in return, people must care for salmon by cleaning the rivers, breeding the first salmon, and returning that salmon's bones back to the water. And every year, the first salmon ceremony, that's exactly what Coast Salish people do, gathering to sing, dance, and pray to hold up their end of the bargain. Or like some tribes in what's now California, weave baskets of native grasses, twigs, roots, and ferns. The designs they create tell traditional stories of their homeland. To this day, people who practice the tradition literally weave their ties to the land into their creations. Many native languages also reveal these close ties with nature. Lushootseed, for
No words
example,
to this.
is spoken by many
Just
Coast
beautiful.
Salish tribes from the area that's now called the Puget Sound. These groups share the perspective that every part of the land has a voice, and often it's called its own name. Like Ikaka, that's crow. There's Stoluch, which means river. That comes from the sound of water pouring over rocks. And Hluch, which means salt water, and calls to the mind waves washing up on the beach. So sometimes native languages sound like the land, but often they share ideas about the land too. Like the word Onabini Jesus in the Ojibwe language is one way to refer to the month of March. But really, it refers to the hard crust on the snow moon. The moon, or month, where the top layer of the snow melts during the day and then freezes at night. But when the Haudenosaunee count from 1 to 10, they're not just counting. They're also telling their story of how the land came into existence and reaffirming their ties to it. Like the word for one is also the word for sky woman, who arrived first in their creation story. The word for two refers to sky woman's daughter, who came next. And the word for three refers to sky woman's daughter and her twin grandsons. All these connections exist on a mind-blowing time scale. So ancient, it's often described as since time immemorial. In other words, so long ago is before any record or memory. I've talked about connections that go
Before the
all the way back to
language.
Native Americans' ancestors,
Even before the
ancestors,
spoken
ancestors,
language.
ancestors, ancestors, America was very much occupied. Dawn Green.
Nah, I like this.
This will be. In 2023, researchers confirmed that human footprints preserved in the mud in what's now New Mexico were as many as 23,000 years old. Thousands of years before Europeans came. The land here teemed with life. Native villages, farms, nations, and confederations of nations. Some groups settled in one place. Others moved with the seasons. And trade networks spread across the continent, connecting different
Cook
nations
that
and
for a
trails
minute
of
more.
farmlands. Like over 1,600 years ago, indigenous people now Ohio built multiple earthworks. Enormous earthen mounds formed into precise geometric shapes, and they transported goods to the ceremonial site from all over what's now North America, like obsidian rock from what's now Idaho, and seashells and fossilized megalodon teeth from the Gulf Coast. Everywhere they went, natives developed highly specialized way of living with the land. Like the Oshwe or the Zuni in what's now New Mexico invented a way of farming in a place where it hardly rains at all, using moisture-trapping grids, and Hidatsa of what's now North Dakota spent part of their year growing food on Primo riverfronts. Then, when the river flooded every year, they moved around and hunted, knowing the soil would be turbo-boosted with nutrients by the time they returned. Work smarter, not harder. My point is, this place was lived in. There was deep, active relationships between native people and the elements of the land around them. Natives managed the landscape, clearing, planting, hunting, fishing, and building, and they knew their stuff. For example, tribal nations across the continent use fire as a tool, burning smaller patches of land to boost the growth of certain plants and prevent much larger wildfires. Some scholars even argue that native people even molded the environment in ways that other living things depended on, and native people depended on those living things right back. But then Europeans came knocking, carrying diseases that ballooned into epidemics. They also brought invasive species, like rats, that had no natural predators, making life harder for native species. I mean, I'm not saying colonists were invasive species, but...
They were.
And of course, they also
I can say it, I'm white.
that system where
We were totally an invasive species. They should have curbed us from the corners of the beginning of it. Sorry, it's mostly because I've heard for years how good white folk are, and as a white folk, I've never seen it.
Assigned to individual tribal members, but allotments just shrank tribal lands further, so that non-native people could swoop in and claim more of it for their own. Today, at least much of the Western world, it's property that gets treated as sacred, not the land itself. And because of this dominant worldview, many native communities have been separated from the land they've been in relationship with since time immemorial, including sacred sites. Thankfully, many native communities
For example, the Etowah Indian
their
Mound.
ancestral homelands, striving
Now, I might be wrong, and perhaps the Etowah Nation does control that mound at site.
for example,
Perhaps it isn't just the state of Georgia. I don't know. I would like to be proven wrong on that personally.
Onondaga Nation, including
But I
Onondaga
probably
Lake.
won't be.
The Onondaga consider that lake sacred, but it's been abused, used, and polluted with toxic waste in the past 100 years. But in 2022, 1,000 acres of that forest were put back under the Onondaga Nation's stewardship, including the headwaters of the creek that flows into that lake. For thousands of years, the Onondaga cared for these waters like relatives, and now they're back in the family. And in recent years, about one-third of the land that was taken from the Bakoje, or Iowa tribe, has been transferred back to tribal ownership.
Good.
They turned the land into a tribal national park that can be used for hiking and camping, and will preserve the land and store
Most times that is what tribes do when you give them land back, is put it back to use for the land and the people.
Populations of bison, eagles, trumpeter swans, and herring are being restored, invasive species eliminated, and habitats in grasslands, forests, and rivers revived, in regions from present-day Montana to Virginia. From a native perspective, the land is so much more than what we see and touch. It's everything. Our home, our responsibility, the source of sustenance for our bodies and spirits, and part of our identity. For many native people, restoring land to native stewardship serves as an acknowledgement of native peoples ourselves, a step towards ensuring tribal sovereignty. For native youth, it's a step towards the future. Native Americans have thousands of years of experience taking care of the land, and that responsibility and knowledge gets passed on from generation to generation. Vice Chairman Lance Foster said, "We've been here for 1,000 years now, and unlike other people who can buy and sell land and move away, we can never move away. This is our land, forever. Here's to the next 1,000 years." In our next episode, we're going to unpack some common aspects of Native worldviews, and I will see you
Trick
then.
me on that one.
Thanks for watching this episode of Crash
Like,
Course Native American History, which was filmed at our studio in Indiana. What do you see when you picture findings at an archaeological dig? Jewelry, pottery, tools? That's all true. But at Native American sites, we've also discovered dice made from animal bones and pottery shards, sticks with pockets and leather-covered balls used for games of, guessed it, stickball. Ancient Nerf guns. Well, sort of. In short, things made for fun. These artifacts show us how natives viewed and interacted with the world thousands of years ago, and help connect ancestors from the past to natives today. Hi, I'm Jay Jim, and welcome to Crash Course Native American History. I'll be the first to say that not all Native people are the same. We all have different tribal affiliations, different traditions, different tastes in Pop-Tarts, minus the seventh one. But there are aspects of being Native that bring us all together. Ways Native peoples have viewed the world since time immemorial that tie us to our ancestors. And understanding Native worldview can bring us all closer to seeing each other as nuanced, complex people and not just stereotypes. Like you could believe everything the media tells you, you'd think all Native Americans were stoic and serious, always serving resting indigenous face and spouting some next level wisdom with a single tear streaming down their cheek. But really,
that's a sad fact is the crying Native American wasn't even native. It was an Italian fellow they had hired. That's where it's like, can y'all imagine how that next level racism Native people have faced? It's just despicable. I mean, imagine if the only thing you knew about black people came from minstrel shows of white folks in blackface. And that's basically how it feels being a Native growing up and looking at Native American culture through the lens of America. We really need to get more Native American actors acting roles. Just a thought.
One of the best ways to understand a people is to know what makes them laugh. Laughter encompasses the limits of the soul. Native humor is often dark, satirical, cheeky, and provocative. Abenaki writer Joseph Roshak notes that humor and teasing can be used to remind people that they aren't better than anyone else. And writer Tiffany Minch, a member of the Standing Rock Sioux Nation, tells the story of laughing with her dying mother when trying to figure out what to do with her remains. That conversation led to the title of her book, Bury My Heart at Chuck E. Cheese's. You know, human remains probably weren't used by a Chuck E. Cheese when I was a kid. That ball thing was full of secrets. And for natives, humor wasn't just for fun. Here's a way to create community and bond the way people do when they share inside jokes.
I'm just going to say the Christian God gives you blood, death, and promises of either salvation or damnation. Native gods give you gods of harvest, gods of fun. They have laughing gods, y'all. Just saying, when you're in the market for a god, choose native. Better gods. I say as if people can pick their gods like I do. Never mind. I forget the religious are kind of locked into that stuff for some reason. Don't know why.
Many Christian missionaries and anthropologists documented different variations of native clowns or tricksters, but they usually didn't get the joke, especially because clowns would often make fun of the European colonizers themselves. Self-awareness, not the Southern strong suits. Those clowns were part of a centuries-long tradition of natives using humor to cope and build resilience, finding ways to laugh about tough stuff like colonization and persecution. Because if you can't make fun of the colonizers, can you make fun of them? The confusion white colonizers felt when trying to interpret native humor has shown up in books, movies, and TV shows where indigenous representation was, for so long, a product of white imaginations, often depicting native people as vicious, violent, and humorless, covered in war paint 24/7. And, as we talked about in episode 3, those inaccurate and stereotypical representations of natives have real consequences, impacting everything from how natives are treated by police and the courts, to the mental health of native youth, and much more. But accurate native-led representations fight against that. These days, popular TV shows are bringing native traditions to a wider audience, like the show's
Check them out if you can.
And much of the worldview represented in them. I can watch these shows and be like, yep, they get me. And then there are folks like me, indigenous content creators bringing native humor to
Definitely check out see Jim.
Like this.
One of my favorite skits of his is "My house is haunted by white ghosts." His house was built on sacred white people land. It was one of my favorite bits he did. If you get the chance, check it out. It is very, like, honestly, I like it because it could be viewed by any age group. It's very cute. It's just also kind of, you know, tongue-in-cheek.
What's the native equivalent of a Renaissance man? A Renaissance man? For Goldtooth and many natives, the ability to laugh at our oppressors and poke fun at serious things helps take back a little bit of power from those hierarchies and return it to the natives. Because it turns out, funny games have a lot of power. For example, a spirit-filled game called Chunky may have been used to hash out diplomatic relationships between tribes, like Fortnite, but instead of ruining friendships and strengthening them. While conflict and war were common among native nations before Europeans arrived, their diplomatic practices also showcase another important part of native worldview: reciprocity, or interdependence between people and all living and non-living things. Another way to think of it is, I take care of you, and you take care of me. And when it comes to relationships with other tribes, peace is good for trade, and trade is good for survival. Let me tell you a story about one of the most famous alliances in native history. Generations ago, 5 nations were at war with each other. A tribal leader named Totadaho had murdered the wife and daughter of another leader, Hiawatha. But one day, a man called Peacemaker, who wanted to spread peace and unity among the nations, visited Hiawatha and helped him let go of his anger. As the story goes, Peacemaker snapped an arrow in half and showed how easy it was to break. Then he tied 5 arrows together and tried again. But the arrows held firm. They were stronger together. So Peacemaker and Hiawatha demonstrated this strength to Totadaho, who agreed to join them under the Great Law of Peace. The 5 nations that came together as a result became known as the Haudenosaunee, or the Iroquois Confederacy, an alliance among the Mohawk, Seneca, Oneida, Onondaga, and Cayuga nations. Later, the Tuscarora would join, bringing their ranks to 6. The Tuscarora were running on Indian time. To celebrate their unity, the Haudenosaunee dug up a white pine tree and threw their weapons in the hole. Then they planted a new tree above that hole and named it the Tree of Peace.
Burying the axe.
And that's the story of Peacemaker. Delicious. The story of Peacemaker demonstrates the strength of native interdependence. You can see this value in the popular native phrase, all my relations. In Lakota, the idea of all my relations is that everything, not just ourselves, is part of the same great tapestry of the universe. This dude is my cousin, spiritually. And reciprocity doesn't just extend to people, but to all living things, including plants, animals, and even natural elements like fire and wind. In fact, the land is so important to native cultures that we made a whole episode about it. And there are lots of ways to express that give and take relationship with it, like saying a prayer after a hunt or returning an animal's bones to the land. Or not fracking.
Yeah, not fracking is very good for the land and the ancestors. Shows much respect for the earth. Just saying. A little bit of hardship for us, long-term benefit for all of humanity. Fair trade. Oh, but no, we need to go fast while we go buy useless plastic crap that won't last more than a day. The irony that it'll be dead dinosaurs that kill us is kind of not lost on me.
That reciprocity and gratitude also extends to the way native communities view wealth. For example, one traditional gathering is called the potlatch, originally from the Chinook term meaning to give or give. It is much more than just a gathering. It is a way of understanding the world. The practice, which is still used today, is rooted in honoring relationships with fellow humans and earth through reciprocity. It is an economic and legal system that redistributes material and intangible wealth as a way to honor debts. Potlatches maintain a system of existence based on honoring the whole above the self. These and other ceremonies are important ways of gathering together in community, and they can bring together all these different values: gratitude, respect, generosity, the ways many tribes are structured through systems of kinship or family ties. The Cheyenne, in particular, have a strict structure of kinship, though humor is a big part of it too. Certain family relationships, especially the in-laws, are expected to tease and joke with each other to maintain harmony, and the health and balance of the family unit directly influences the health and the balance of the tribal band and the Cheyenne Nation as a whole. The history of Native Americans has often been overshadowed by the arrival of Europeans and the subsequent generations of mistreatment and cultural destruction. But, to bring it back to my boy Peacemaker, we're stronger together. Native worldviews in all their complexity, depth,
We'll always
and
be strong
diversity
together,
derive
friends.
from thousands of years of history and tradition, and generations of playing games, making peace, sharing a feast, joking about death, and making fun of ourselves and our oppressors have built a foundation for tribal strength and perseverance today. Next time, we're going to explore the complicated history between Native Americans and archaeology. Now, thanks for watching this
Ooh.
episode of Native American
I'd be blowing up on the Facebook.
Studio in Indianapolis, Indiana, and was made with the help
Alrighty, y'all. I think I'm gonna have to sign off for a little bit. Try to get some cleaning done around here. Dethaw some of the spots around the house. And crack down some more of these holes in there. It's letting wind in. I'm trying to make it warm and cuddly in this house. But I thank anyone who showed up. I had at least one of y'all hang out for quite some time. I appreciate you. I appreciate anyone who comes out and chills with me. And if you want to play on the server, like I said, just because I don't know age groups and I don't really... Y'all, I don't know how to make it clear without sounding like an asshole. It's not that I don't like you kids, it's just that you're kids. You should go play amongst yourselves and leave old men like me alone to play with my... Okay, I heard it myself that time. Either way, just saying, y'all. I don't mean to be an asshole, but you need to play with people your own age. If you want to play on the world with me, feel free. If you want to play in the Dead Village, have at it. Basically, I label all my buildings with a bit of copper. If it ain't got copper on it, you can raise it to the ground if you want to. Just leave the underground to me and the fam, and if you want to come play, come play. But, you know, my goal is to be the internet's older brother or crazy uncle. Nothing more, nothing less. I want to help where I can, anywhere I can, fam, because it's on us. And if you're having a bad day, know that so long as you're not a Nazi or a fascist, I'm sorry to hear it, and I hope your day gets better. Outside of that, y'all be good, take care of each other, and I'll be back here in a few hours for either some Saints Row, some Spider-Man, probably not Minecraft again for a minute, but we'll come back to this in a bit. I'm just trying to figure out what to do yet. Right now I'm just exploring the underground. I'm curious to what's down here. But y'all be good. We'll see you later. Bye for now.